Hey, how we doing? It's Don here. Back to another live show here. I've had a lot of stuff going on this week, so I'm a hair behind as I always seem to be. I actually had to get in touch with eBay today over an issue, which I will go over as well in just a few minutes. I don't know if it's something going on with many other people, but I will address that shortly here. Weather-wise, it's actually supposed to be almost 70 today here in Ohio. It's been rainy and very windy, so things have changed from the below zero we've been having. So there's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of picks I've done. I'm actually at this point not really picking up much at all, just because we're flush with stuff at this moment. Tomorrow morning, I am actually going to look at a huge collection of records. I may end up sinking $1,000 into some records early in the morning after I drop off my youngest. So that's my plans for tomorrow. There are some big sales and things going on this weekend too, which we will be hitting. So that's just a touch on that. Obviously, we all know the new eBay changes. I have looked at Terapeak again. It has improved, so I may go over Terapeak again. I sat down and did a hangout with a couple people the other day, and we went over just Terapeak for like an hour, as well as a couple other things. There is another site that I had planned on posting, but after discussing some issues with the other two people we were chatting on the hangout, I'm not going to post it as of yet because I am not sure on how legit, and I want to just run it by eBay next time I get a chance. And I should have done it today, but I just totally forgot with everything else going on. I just thought about it right now. But there is another site, and it is a third-party approved site that is authorized. But it's iffy on the authorization. I've heard people talking about fake authorizations on third-party sites. So I just want to verify everything before I do it. So anyway, let's see who's on today here. Again, I'll go over an issue here in just a few moments that I'm actually dealing with a couple other sellers who had the same problem in just a minute here. Duncan is here as well. I saw a post from him earlier. We had chatted back and forth a minute earlier on a video I posted this morning. So Duncan is from Australia. If you don't know, it's always interesting to talk to somebody from a totally different market, especially when they're doing similar items to me. Duncan does a lot of postage stamps and things along that line, philatelic, vintage paperwork too. So it was interesting to talk to somebody to see what they get from another country. So just my personal opinion. Part of why I like doing YouTube, because I do get to talk to a lot of different people and things like that, as well as on some of the other platforms. If you're unaware, I am on Instagram now. I do have a Facebook page and a Patreon page. Instagram links are down below in the description, as well as in the actual comment section too. So just FYI on that. Black Crystal Dice is here. Greetings. Creative Business 339. Fancy Pink, how are you doing? Jerry is back. Yes, you've been here before, Jerry. I do remember you being on live before. Larry Spicer, how are you doing? Cato Creek Traders, how you doing, Cato? Aaron is here again. I got David Rubino. Hang on just a second here. My feed's all over again. I know we just started, but it is already acting up. Brian the Oak Brook Picker, how are you doing? The wife, I don't think is going to be on today. We've had a lot going on. We had to do some appointments and set up some my son's next echocardiograph we had to set up, as well as a couple other tests that he has to have done. So we've just been kind of dealing with family issues a little bit here and there. So just FYI. Rich Sanders, how are you doing? Heart of Dixie Flipper, good evening. Hopefully everybody can hear me fine. Kathy Steele, good evening. Boondock Buy Sell, Reseller King. Nevermore, how are you doing there, Nevermore? Scott Costa, Jeffrey Hoffman, Hustle and Grind Canada West, how are you doing in Canada? We are probably going to Canada in the summertime. And we got Maria at the bottom and flipping south. I'm just going to touch on this right now since this was bugging me. I shouldn't say bugging me, but I had sold somebody some Arm & Hammer bird cards. Now, I've talked about that in some of my videos. You've seen some. I sold a bunch. And in fact, the what sold on eBay video, you'll see several that were sold to the person that we're talking about here. The person bought one first. It arrived. They said it was the wrong size, which, you know, I took the returns back. I have a free return policy. And then I was fine. So now come today, now they, without a response, just say I need to return all of these items. just changed their mind. They were too expensive, even after they've paid it. So you're going to get stuff like this. An hour after I get the returns, I've already accepted them, fine, that's fine. They're returning everything, so they can't leave feedback. If the cards are different, I don't have to give them the refund. So at this point, I'm not really out anything. But the end of the result is another person emailed me and asked me if I had a buyer that bought a bunch of these specific cards and then wanted to return them. At that point, I actually called eBay to see what was going on because it sounds really suspicious. End of the day, the person emailed me back. It turns out that they ordered from a bunch of people, 6 or 7 at least, that we already know for sure. Other people, the same kinds of cards, and then returned them all with the same response. Didn't need them, don't want them, basically. Nothing wrong with the items, but I don't really know what they're getting out of this, but at this point, this person is going to probably be banned from eBay for violating the actual return. It's an abuse process. They've got many of them, and from what I see, this person's been on for almost 9 months, so it's not just a newbie that did this. I mean, it could be a subscriber. I don't really care who did it. It doesn't really matter. But the end of the result is I'm not going to really be out anything. eBay will refund the money if the cards... I'll get to keep the money, the basically gist of it. So if they don't return the cards are messed up or anything else is wrong, I'm fine. eBay also told me today, regardless of what the policy says, with this case, due to the fact that I can prove they did it to many people, if I want to withhold the return shipping, they are going to let me do that, which I 100% will do. So at this point, when they're returned, I won't be out a dime, even if they're returned, whatever the case may be. The person may not even return them for all I know. It may just be some scam. All the purchases that were made within, I think, 4 days, the other seller told me. So I've now talked to a couple sellers. I've heard of this happening before. I've had it happen on a couple occasions, a couple years back. This is a first for more than a year. And again, it's not going to discourage me from offering free returns because, again, they can't leave feedback at all on any of the items they bought from me. No matter what I do, even if I don't refund them their money, they still cannot leave me feedback. And if I don't refund them the complete amount of money, they're not going to get it out of me at all. eBay would give it out of their funds. That is how that process works if they come back and challenge the case. And with this type of case, if, say, I don't give them the full refund, and they do challenge it, it's a separate case. I do not even have to deal with the secondary case if they challenge my amount of refund. I've done this before. I've talked to eBay many times on this. So that is fine with me. I'm not going to be out anything. That's the key. So again, I'm not mad. I'm not furious. A lot of people will go off and yell and be yelling at eBay and stuff. eBay has no bearing on this whatsoever. This is a fraudulent buyer who's been on for 9 months. For whatever reason, they're old. I don't know what the issue is. I couldn't tell you. I'm not even worried about it anymore. By tomorrow morning, I won't even be thinking about it. They'll show up. As long as they're good, I'll relist them. I've already blocked them. The minute I saw the second, third, and fourth return requests come in, I blocked them instantly. So, and then went from there. And again, I've talked to eBay twice about this person, so I know they're going to be in some hot water. Another thing here, too, comment on this concierge service. I know a lot of people talk about going to eBay Open to get concierge service. This is the first time I can confirm without a doubt that the concierge service is the exact same service you get with an anchor store. When I called today, the second time, she actually answered concierge service on the phone, which is not what it states on, what I'm technically getting. So without a doubt, 100%, the concierge service is the exact same thing you get with an anchor store if you were unaware. Which basically means I get the same people pretty much every time I call, and they're always in this country. I'm not going to holler any names, but I usually talk to a small group of people. Usually it's 2 in the morning. There's 2 or 3 others that I've talked to on several occasions. So I know these people, and I have a rapport with some of the people that I've talked to. Just because I do call every week or 2, there's something that I just happen to call eBay about. So again, there's nothing that eBay's doing wrong with that aspect of it. I'm also going to address another aspect on some of the changes in what's going on with eBay. I'll get back to some questions and such forth too, and we'll call out some more names in just a few minutes here. But this is really important. There's some studies out there. I keep up on all this stuff. I know there's folks who don't know all the aspects of it. That's fine. Everybody's at their own level. Everybody's at their own level in investigating this. What I don't worry about is who's running eBay at the present. I don't worry about what's going on, the changes they're making, if they're making wrong decisions or bad decisions, because there's not much I can do about it. This is a capitalistic country. Nothing wrong with that either. I'm not dogging it because that's how I'm able to make money. But for the most part, they can do what they want with their own company. I'm not going to sit there and tell them it's right or wrong. I am going to tell you this. I'm looking at some figures here. I'm looking at a report that I printed off. If you're unaware, this is a legit report across several different platform investigations. This is actually one that Google will actually state that's a fact. 56% of every person going to buy an item off the internet will go to Amazon first. The first place they are going to look. Out of any places they will go, they are not going to do a Google search. They're not going to do a Chrome. They're going to go straight to Amazon to look for the item. That's 56%. This isn't one survey. This isn't one run. This isn't one test. There's 3 that all have matching information that all state this. You can Google it if you're interested in looking at some of these. Again, 56% of every person going to buy something immediately, the minute they log on, goes straight to Amazon. So for those saying, you know, why would eBay want to be like Amazon? And I hear this all the time. Everybody's cracking on it. Not everybody. Don't get me wrong. I know there's a lot of dedicated people like us. But there's a lot of people giving negative. If eBay does not do a like comparison to Amazon, eBay will not compete with what the market and what the trends are going these days. 56 out of 100 people are going to Amazon immediately instead of anywhere else. eBay is on that list too. They're farther down, of course. They're number 2 usually, depending on what they're looking for. But again, if you don't mimic where all the business is going, I don't care if it's Amazon, if it's any other company. If there's another company that's garnering 56% of every search that starts on the internet, you got to be mimicking them, mirroring them in any way, shape, or form you can to pick up some of that business. The other one is SEO, search engine optimization. To some extent. Obviously, you're not in control of how the engine itself works because it's going through a site, but you can really keyword search and do things along that line. I'm not going to go into a big detail on that. I may have a video on some of the other apps that we use. There are other apps that you can use to help you with your keyword searches, so just take that in consideration. But for those of you who are only selling on eBay, and I was one of those for many years, for the majority of my time selling on eBay, like 17 out of 20 plus years, I only did eBay. Only did eBay. But I did come around after many people told me, branch out. And with the fact that 56%, I'm going to keep repeating this number because it's that important, of the people searching for items, no matter what they are, going to Amazon, I have to be on Amazon. You just have to be on more than one platform to get this to work. So for those of you who are struggling with sales, if you want to increase your sales, you got to branch out to Amazon. You got to do it as quickly as possible, in my personal opinion. There's so many other items that you can sell. Right now, we're going to be coming into trade fairs, and trade shows are going to be starting to be hitting majorly this time of year. That's what I make money at. That's where I find wholesale at. So I'm not going to go into that as well in depth because you need to branch out first to get into these markets first. Amazon should be your primary concern, to at least look into it. For the most part, if you get ungated in something, you're automatically going to be billed $39.99. So if you want to sell anything on there, it's going to at least cost you $40 a month. That's a flat fee. You can list as much as you want. Again, I'm not going to give up eBay for anything because eBay still is one of our biggest moneymakers for what we sell. But wholesale on Amazon is a huge chunk of change. I can't turn it down. There's not much work into it. I get huge shipments of things that can actually be shipped to Amazon. In some cases, you can ship a pallet to Amazon. So it just depends on your rapport and how things are set up as well. But of course, I do FBA, so FBA stuff gets sent in obviously that way too. So if I order a wholesale lot of, say, 2, 3, 4, 500 items, 1,000 items, sometimes they're brought back to the house and we spend a couple hours to input them in to, basically I use Amazon for most of that for FBA. I know Inventory Labs I've used in the past. I don't have it now, honestly, but I probably should. But then we'll actually just print up the receipts, the box, and then I'll drive them down with my Home Depot boxes. So, FBA is the bomb. Once it leaves my place, I don't really have to see much of it if I don't want to. Obviously, there's returns, quarterly and all that. But other than that, I can recommend everybody should be at least looking into Amazon. And if you don't want to do Amazon, look into Etsy. Look into Poshmark. Look into any of the other sites that are out there. I wouldn't honestly recommend Bonanza or Ruby Lane, though. They're okay platforms, but they don't sell anywhere near vintage-wise enough to make it worth my while. I've looked into those sites as well, too. So that's just a word on that. I mean, I can't help constantly look at this figure down here because I was shocked that it was so high. I knew it used to be in the almost 40% range, like 38 or 39% last time I looked, which was a year or more ago. These figures come out once or twice a year, so, and I keep track of them. The trends are going towards Amazon more and more. So, nobody should be blaming eBay for changing up what they are doing. I don't see any need to blame eBay. It's a necessity. In most other sites, I can pretty much guarantee you if they want market share, even to match eBay's market share, they're going to have to do similar acts, no matter what site you're on. We did Poshmark. We did give it up. So, I mean, every site isn't for everybody. Poshmark could be for any one of you out there. It could be a huge moneymaker for you. It could be a plus. I don't like clothing so much. So, for me, I just didn't like the sharing and the time spent on it, the time it took me. If I'm rolling into another platform, I want to be able to upload a ton. I want to be able to roll right into it without having to deal with a bunch of monitoring and sharing and, the time frame. Anyway, let's go to some questions again and see who's here. Let me see where we're at. Again, my feed hops all over the place. I don't see my feed right now, so we are going to try to get it back up. Hang on just a second here. Where are we at? Hang on just a second, folks. I'm sorry. BitMEX trade. Let's see here. Hey, J.I., how you doing? Let's see. Diverse Flips, how are you doing? South Carolina. Just Me, Kathy, good evening. Hoptman, greetings from Atlanta. Love your content. Thank you very kindly. I have been to Atlanta. We actually have friends in Atlanta. They do Dragon Con, and we actually plan on doing Dragon Con one of these days. You either love it or you don't. You hate it. That seems to be the case. The Junking Dad, a girl, how are you doing? I've seen some of yours on Instagram there. You have caught the live show. Heart of Dixie Flipper. Don, love your Bolo videos. You have opened my eyes to more opportunities, especially at a state sale. Lots of old stuff here in Alabama. Yes, we've been to estate sales in Alabama. There's actually the Mobile flea market down there we used to go to a lot, and I was always lucky enough to find something. That's been years, so I don't know how good that is. There was some in Troy we used to go to and some other areas. We've hit quite a few places. Montgomery was a big one. We used to go to Montgomery a lot and do hauls there at the thrift stores and antique malls and things along that line too. Montgomery, Alabama, obviously. Bolo means be on lookout for. Be on the lookout for is what Bolo means. And I see Just Me, Kathy has called that out as well. Let's see here. Where are we at? Bolo squared. Hey, Don, just wondering if you have any videos on barware, like vintage openers or corkscrews. That is on my list. I will have to look. I may have one on some barware items. I buy barware all the time. I'm sure I've shown many items in here. Bar kits are great. I love the decanters. Animal decanters are the best when it comes to barware. Like the dogs, the donkeys that have the little shot glasses on it. I will put together one if I don't have one. In fact, I'm almost sure that's either on my list or I have one. Barware is a big mover for us. I do sell a lot of barware. They can be anything all the way up to even coasters sell. I did post a photo. I scored a real good label the other day, just a day or so ago. It's on my Instagram page. It's an 1880s beer bottle label, which would be considered a line of barware. But it's from 1880. It's a really nice one. It's probably, say, $500 piece, somewhere in that range. At least that's what I'm going to pop it up for. Barware is huge. Barware always sells. Signs are great. Neon signs are great. And that kind of stuff you can get. The auctions around here, sometimes they'll have a auction with, say, 70 neon signs sitting at it. And that's just one auction. They'll have a ton of other stuff. I do beer trays, soda trays, signs, thermometers. Flange signs are always good. Door pushes for beer are always good. Same with the door pulls, pushes. They're about the same thing. even the standees that would go out inside in front of a restaurant, the beer signs, the calendars. Geez, anything beer bar related is good. Especially vintage ones. Beer labels are the best for me because I can get them usually in big quantity because most people think their paper are not worth much. Even like whiskey and bottle labels, all the way up into, say, the 60s, I still sell. I had some in my last video, if I'm not mistaken, for my What Sold on eBay video. So, again, that is a key item. I will put that together if I don't have one up, but I think I do. If I do, I will try and post a link down into the comment section down below after the video goes up. It'll probably be tomorrow, but I will post that up there too. Let's see where we're at. Why not do no refunds? I would never distinguish and cut down on that. Yeah, and somebody else has already called it out. Silver Pools. There is no such thing as no refunds or no returns. eBay will make you take it back no matter what. I don't care what your return policy is. If the buyer states that it is not as described, you're taking it back no matter what. I don't care what the deal is. 99.999% of all the time, if a buyer claims it's not as described, you got to take it back. There's just no other real way around it. It's just the way it works. I just offer the free returns because of the safety net that it offers. And in all honesty, I know I get a lot of comments saying that a lot of people have had issues with that. I don't sell the high risky items. I don't do electronics, high dollar electronics. I usually only do vintage electronics. We'll piece out and part out things like reel-to-reel players, record players. I'll pull apart a turntable. I'll sell the pieces, the platter, the head, the tone arm head. I'll sell the needles. All that stuff sells incredibly well. The parts, the pulleys, the knobs, all that stuff sells. Usually if we tear something apart like that, I do much better than selling it as a whole. I don't do a lot of what other people do. I will never do an iPhone. I don't do, $1,000 cameras. I only do vintage items, as I said. So I alleviate the issues with most of that stuff by what I sell. I don't do too much clothing either. The other aspect on that is when you don't offer refunds or returns because of a couple people, maybe 1%, maybe 2% of your sales, you're basically screwing over everybody else who's a good customer, that 98%, that 99% who would have come back if you would have offered better service. At least that's my take on it. I know it works because the folks that I even talk to, like some of the folks in my Patreon group, I talk to people more exclusively in there occasionally. And they have better results from doing stuff like this across the board. I talk to people all the time. You know I'm on here all the time. I've got videos out all the time, every day of the week pretty much. And there's tons of comments and stuff that I converse with people back. I get emails all the time. I get comments on Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. So I've got some information. I've got, an overall understanding on what people say and what they do, at least the ones that I talk to. So overall, people agree with my policy on this. It's a no-brainer. Customer services is key to this. There are maybe some rare incidences where a no return, no refund policy would work. But for what I sell, the type of material that I sell, I offer a free return 30 days. And even with my wholesale and stuff, I still do that because I sell a ton on Amazon. So with Amazon, you're pretty much stuck as well with Amazon for the most part on anything. The A to Z, return options and stuff like that. I don't want bad feedback. I don't want issues. I don't want somebody escalating anything on Amazon. So we just do it across the board on every site. There's no chance in me missing or mixing up, what I do on one site with another because they're all pretty much the same. Uniformity works with this because it's easy to tell if something's wrong when everything's the same everywhere. So something's going to stand out. That's my take on that. Excuse me. Let me see here where we're at. Hopefully that answers you a little bit there on Junking Data Girl and on BitMEX Trades. Let me pop down here again. My feed's just all over the place on some days. Creative Business 339. Anyone know about Jungen's German clocks? Not sure if mine is 1800 or 1900. That I don't know. I do love German clocks. I actually have one. When you hear the ticking, there's actually a German clock sitting here on the wall. And then I've got a couple other German clocks. German clocks are good, so even if it's 1800 or 1900, it's probably still worth a few bucks. Again, it depends on what you paid for it, what you're going to get out of it. So Yeah, Anthony brings up, try to return to yard sales or flea markets. You're not going to be able to do it as the buyer at one of those places. Now, auction houses are a different story. If they quote something is legit or a real piece and it turns out not to be, for the most part, I'm able to take those back to local auctions. So just keep that in mind a little bit there. But what you buy is yours. You're stuck with it. Selling to somebody off eBay is a different story. I don't mind anybody returning anything. This one irked me a little bit after I found out that they were doing it with, I got an itch, we're doing it with many people. Because again, there are people that do that. They'll try and finish a set off and try to order a bunch of the same cards from a bunch of different people. They'll keep the ones that are the best, or they'll use them for photographs. They'll take some photographs and then they'll send them back. Who knows? Who knows what they're doing with this stuff? Doesn't matter. Chances are they won't be on. And if they have a second account that's even tied to the account that they're buying from me on with the case this earlier in the video, you know, they'll ban them both. They don't just ban one usually when you're doing it. If you're doing something that violates a policy on eBay and you have several accounts that are tied together, and even if they're not tied together, eBay can ban and mostly bans both of your accounts, or 3 accounts, or 4 accounts. So that is the risk you take, like us, that we take if you have accounts that are tied together. I know people say, you know, why would you want them tied together? In some cases, if you're a new store, you have a secondary anchor store or a second store, you won't be able to list as many items as your other store. If you tie them together, it'll boost up your ability to list a ton more items immediately. So that's one reason that you would tie a couple of stores together that you own, you know, several of them. So hopefully that makes a little sense there. Let's see here. Exactly, yes. Hustle and grind, Canada West. That is true. Yeah, Flippin' South says the same thing. I have never in all these years that we've, well, it's been years, honestly, that we've had an anchor store, I've ever had anybody ever say concierge service on the phone. I usually don't call this late. I'm usually calling in the morning. What I've been told by somebody who works there before is they can tell who's calling by your number, because I only use the number that's in the eBay system, honestly. And that's how it routes to where it needs to go in the first place. So, you know, for me, they usually know who's calling, and I usually get the same couple of people in the morning. I usually am calling eBay like 8 in the morning, their time, California time. So, you know, I usually call first thing in the morning. They're usually not very busy, so. There is BitMEX trades. There is a such, you can list no returns in your auction, but it doesn't mean a thing. You will still be required 100%, no matter what you list in your auction. You can, again, say no returns all you want, but if something is not as described, you are taking it back. Not only are you taking it back, but you're going to pay return shipping, and that buyer can leave you negative feedback if they want to. So those are just some things to think about. So yes, you can offer no returns as a wording, but that doesn't mean you don't have to take something back. So I don't care what the policy says. You can put no return in every single spot you want. You have to take it back. It's a misnomer if somebody's telling you you don't have to take something back. You have to. eBay will accept it either way. You'll have to refund them if you won't take it back either way. You know, there's nothing you can do about an eBay return for not as described. There's just no answer to that. There's nothing you can do, BitMEX trades. There's just nothing at all. And as Silverpool says again, all they have to do is file a claim and you will issue a refund. There's nothing else you can do about it. Yeah, I don't worry about if somebody takes something back. Even used goods, new goods, whatever the case may be, you got to take it back. In some cases, you're going to sell something NOS. The customer's going to open it up, and then they're going to still return it. I know you can't sell it as a new when it gets back, but that's how the new return policy helps you, because if they've destroyed the value of it, you can deduct half the cost, even more of it, if now, as an opened item, it's only going to sell. Let's say you sold a $100 item, new, it was sealed, they opened that $100 item, they want to return it, they return it, now it's only worth $40. You can deduct the difference from what you sold it to them for to what you would actually get for it. So you only refund them $40. You get to keep the $60 to compensate you for it being opened. All you'd have to do is state that it was not in the condition that you sent it to them in. You know, if that means you video it when you open it, or you video it with the postmaster or your delivery guy standing there, you know, that's what you got to do. You know, it doesn't always work with the video. but at least you're safe. And again, with the return policy offering free returns, eBay isn't going to challenge you. They have not challenged anything I have said on this as long as you have free returns. That's the first question eBay will answer or ask you is, do you offer free returns? The policy is different for you with free returns than it is somebody not having free returns. It's a big difference. So let's see here. Let me pop down. My feed's all over again. Rich Sanders, could you touch on listing impressions? I'm not sure what that data means and how useful it is. In all honesty, Rich, I don't pay any attention to the listing impressions. I could care less about that. If you sell vintage items, the vintage what I do, that means absolutely nothing, as does views. I could care less what the views say for my items. The only information that I pay attention to are watchers. I could care less what the listing impressions say. Half the time it says my listing impressions are down and my sales are 2,000 more than the month before. I don't pay any attention to that at all. That's an overall aspect of it. Again, it doesn't mean much to me at all. I do not worry about listing impressions. It could be different for what you sell, but for me, I don't worry about it. You know, like on Amazon, the only thing I worry about is, you know, my turnover rate on the items, where it's ranked on Amazon. If I got a toy that's ranked in, you know, a 500 or down below, I'm not worried at all about it. So I wish there was a better way and you could rank like collectibles. Obviously, there isn't a way to do it. But if you could rank collectibles, that would be the biggest help. And again, you can't do it. So, you know, I don't worry about listing impressions at all. Somebody else may come back and say that's not true. But for what I personally sell, it's going to take the right person to be online to buy it. That's what it's going to take. I don't care if 100 people looked at it. If the right person isn't online, it's not going to sell. If it's a hot item, it's going to sell no matter what the listing impressions tell you. I know there are some general, honest-to-goodness uses for listing impressions depending on what you sell. But that's all I can tell you on that. There are some other sites there that you can use that will compare. Like you can pull up listing impressions for an item you have versus someone else's item. Stuff like that could be useful if you're selling like a RA, retail arbitrage item. If you're selling something that other people have, you may want to look into listing impressions for specific items because let's say they have better keywords than you do and they have a ton of listing impressions and they've got a ton of sales. It might give you an inside look to say, hey, I need to switch up my keywords for those items. I mean, that's about the best I can say that a listing impression would come into play. And again, I don't worry about the listing impressions for 99% of what I sell. The other ones, I really don't pay much attention to it either. I know my competitors, and I look to see what other people are selling similar or the same item, and then I'll literally see what they're doing. And if I have to mimic somebody else, I'll mimic somebody else. For those of you who watched a bunch of my videos, you know I talk about zooming in when you're doing collectibles like postcards, trade cards, paper items, postage stamps. Basically, your gallery image is a close-up with showing no white or anything else other than the best part of your item. That I picked up from a competitor of mine. Who knows how long he was doing it, but the minute I realized that he was selling items just like the same type of items that I was for a little higher money than I was, I switched up. And sure enough, what happened? My items sell for the same basic price range as he does. Again, that's why I do price higher on these. You know, it's all a philosophy. And I know more and more people are doing that zoom in. I'm not saying it's because of me in general, because hopefully other people are looking at their competitors and seeing what they're doing as well. My competitors tell me what I need to do. So just like looking at people who are complaining about eBay trying to be Amazon, that's what you do in business. If you haven't taken a Business 101 class, you check your competitors. Everywhere I've worked that we did something similar or like items, we compared our prices to competitors. Let's say I worked at a gas station before. It was a pilot. I handled as a general manager a pilot with full-fledged restaurants in it. It's a multi-million-dollar a month industry, those gas stations. And I was required, not necessarily me, but one of my employees would go out and check gas prices twice a day, every single day of the week. We had a list of our main competitors that we would have to check, like Flying J or something along that line. Most big businesses do it. If you see, let's say, Applebee's is running a lunch special, chances are Old Charlie's or Ruby Tuesdays or whatever restaurant chains around there is going to start to do the same thing. They'll have like a pick 3. They all do it. Every store, every company has some frame that they do this in across the board. So compare prices to your competitors. That's how you do this. That's how you win at the game. Maybe they're doing stuff worse than you, and you'll realize that maybe you're the top one in that category. So People will be looking at you. You know, I can't stress that enough. I investigate, I research every single aspect of what I do. So, you know, maybe I spend too much time on it, but I've got OCD. So for me, you know, spending an extra few minutes on something, it cools me down and it mellows me out. And I want to know the answer to something. So certain things aren't important to me and certain things are, like listing impressions, for example. So I know that was a long about answer to that, but hopefully that answers that, Rich. BitMEX trades, I mean, they might not want to try and return it, but for most people who know eBay, they're going to know they can return it anyway. And what's going to happen if you put no returns? You're going to lose sales because people won't buy from you. I will no way buy from anybody who doesn't have a good return policy. Neither will I buy from somebody who has bad feedback. If you got 98% feedback, I'm going to buy from the guy with 100 or 99.9% anytime. If you've got no return policies, no refunds, I'm going to buy from somebody who's selling the same item who has those policies, even if I have to pay a little more. And people say, no, 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 they're looking for the cheapest price. That's not the case. All you got to do is look at FBA. I can sell something on FBA sometimes 30, 40% higher than I can sell something as a merchant fulfilled on Amazon on the exact same site. So that is not the case at all. People will pay for a guarantee. They'll pay for knowing that they can trust it. That's why people buy from Amazon over another seller. And it's not always the price that is the consideration. It's the return policy. It's the A to Z. It's all of the stuff that goes with that. If you're thinking otherwise, you're fooling yourself because that is not the reason, you know, to do that. You're just hurting your business. I have a video just on talking about that, in all honesty. Let's see here. Let me go down. Reseller King. eBay needs to do more marketing to younger generations, advertising on video games, and bring out eBay content only for video games. This is how you get to younger generations. Yeah, that can be the case as well, too. I know they're trying. They're on YouTube. You know, they're on Twitter and the whole works from what I understand. I don't do Twitter, so I've just been told that many times. I've seen them on YouTube, but it's really a poor example on YouTube, in my personal opinion, what they have. Yeah, they should market to the younger crowd as well, too, because in all honesty, I check multiple sites before I buy something for our kids. And they're video gamers, too. My son's playing his PS4 right now. So, you know, I'm in on that. I understand. I get that. I fully agree with you on that one. They're still falling behind in the game. So, you know, that's kind of why I don't mind them doing all these changes and changing up things and moving things around and removing features and adding other features. They're trying to mimic the leaders in the market that they're in. And just like me looking at my competitors, if eBay doesn't look at their competitors, they might as well shut their doors. So I'm happy when I see something changing because I know at least they're on the ball. It may not be everybody's taste on what the changes are. They may be upset about it. You may not be an Amazon person and may not like the idea that eBay is going towards Amazon. The big draw for eBay in the past was auctions, and auctions are just not as popular as they were before. If you do comp searches on items, you're going to see that a bin, a buy it now option with best offer, will almost always sell better than an auction. Not every time. There's some rare items and things that an auction's the only real way to know, but it's a few percentage points of things that I actually auction. You know, you got to realize which ones are worth auctioning and which ones aren't. Some, it's so much easier. You'll get so much more money to do it as a bin that way. I'm just happier to do it as a bin. Sometimes I won't sell it as high as I could. I'm fine with that. You know, the object here is to make money and to bring money to the bottom line. I don't mind even giving away a few bucks, you know, offering something saying it's in a lesser condition than it actually is. When they get it, they're super happy. They have great feedback, and I don't have to worry. You know, like records. I usually grade a little bit under, or sometimes even a whole grade under, depending on the type of record, just to make sure that I don't have any issues. Because on some items like records, the collector, their view on what a like an E plus 78 is might be a little different than yours. Even if you're using the VJM standard, which is what you use for 78s. You don't use Goldmine for 78s if you're a diehard 78 buff. VJM is what they use. But they want it very specific. So I'm cautious on things like that. So, you know, just take that in consideration on anything that you sell if it's vintage. So, but again, Reseller King, you are right on that. Anthony, you don't get a return for a postcard where it doesn't fit. Yeah, believe it or not, yes, I've had one that says it was the wrong size, didn't fit. There are several sizes of postcards. There's I think they're called Continental. They're 5x7 postcards. So you may honestly get one where somebody didn't realize that it wasn't a 3.5 by 5.5. The standard vintage postcards are 3.5 by 5.5, and they have the larger size 5x7. So, and I actually have, in all honesty, had a return for that very same reason a few years ago. Nowadays, I'm very clear on the size if it's a large Continental size card. So, but 99% of the time, you're not going to get a postcard return. I'm not trying to diss you on that one there, Anthony. Amazon Seller 99. Do you ship your paper lightweight items without tracking to save on shipping? I don't pay for shipping, number one. So I don't care what I have to pay to get the tracking. Every single item is tracked in my store. Every single item. I don't care if it's a $2 item and they're paying $3.50 in shipping. They're going to pay $3.50 in shipping, and I'm going to track it. I turn down people quite often that are trying to order items from overseas and trying to get me to send it in a regular envelope for $3 instead of the $14, and I think it's 9 cents now to send a first-class international package to the UK. I won't do that because you're violating the law. You have to declare merchandise being exported and imported. So England has a law that says if it's over 20 bucks that you're importing, you have to pay a fee on it. Every item being brought into England has to be reported so that fee can be assessed if it's needed to be assessed. So anybody trying to get you to do otherwise, maybe they don't know. I would be surprised that somebody didn't know that there's tax on it. But again, there could be many people that don't know. I don't know how, England or Germany or any of these other countries declare this. But most of the time, the people are just trying to save the import fees. You violate the law. I know it may not be a big ordeal or anything to some people, but that's all trackable nowadays. eBay, the post office can look at any single thing you mailed through them at any point and see. eBay reports stuff to the post office, and I know they do because I've seen some of the reports. There's news things, there's some actual web discussions and some Reddits talking about that. So just keep that in mind. I don't do anything illegal shipping-wise. I'm not going to scam anybody. I'm not going to do it. But again, I don't pay for shipping. So everything's tracked. I don't care if I lose some sales on that. I'm safe 100% at least on the tracking aspect of it. It's your option on that. As well as if I don't send cards like that with tracking, I'll lose my top-rated Seller Plus status. I know it's only 1% of final value fees, but at the end of the year, it's thousands of dollars per store. So, if you don't want to save $1,000 at the end of the year, that's your call. But for me, I track everything. I would rather lose a couple $100 worth of sales a quarter and get that $1,000 back, because basically it's a wash or better for me. So again, hopefully I'm not rambling on that, but that's my take on it. I do sell vintage items on Amazon BitMEX, so I'm not sure what your question is referring to. I do returns on pretty much everything I sell, no matter what. Wholesale I sell on Amazon, I take full returns just like anybody else would. Same with eBay. Any wholesale items I sell on eBay, full returns, 30 days. It has to be returned in the exact condition it was sent to you. So if it's a sealed item, they open it, boom, they're already getting deducted the cost difference from a new item to a used item immediately. And there's nothing they can do about it. eBay will side with you on those type of cases if and only if you offer free returns. Let's see here. Hey, Duncan again. On eBay, tried send offer to watchers and got $600 in sales. Yeah, I do send offers to watchers. Now, I've had some people, and they still leave negative comments about this channel on other channels for some reason. Some people I kicked off months ago for being obnoxious on some feeds. They constantly tell me that you don't need to offer offers to watchers because they're just sitting there. They're fake watchers. They're just your competitors trying to buy your items cheap. I don't know anybody who's going to want to sit there and watch an item for a year just to hope they can get it for a few bucks cheaper. It just doesn't work that way. If you've got a bunch of watchers and you've had an item up for a year or two, and it hasn't sold, you haven't got any nibs on it, but you've had people watching it forever, like items with at least 3 items or 3 people watching it, I'll send offers to every one of those items if it's been up a certain length of time. When you go into the promoted listings, I don't pay for those. Those are the free ones, the markdown and promotions. I'll go in and I'll sort all the items by watchers. And then you can also look and add the option to look at how long they've been on eBay. And I'll hit the ones that have been on a certain length of time, and I'll send every one of those an offer. And some days I'm sending out 300-400 offers because in some cases I've got that many people watching items. If a competitor buys an item, I don't really care. If the competitor is going to make some money on the item, I don't care. Again, it's my bottom line. If I pay $1 for something, I wanted 200 for it, I sold it for 100. After fees, after everything is said and done, I still made 80 bucks. I don't care if somebody else made some money on it, especially if it's sitting in my store a year or two. It makes no sense. I've got so many other items I can flip. You're not going to make money, a ton of money on every item. So I blow something out. I get 100 bucks back or 40 bucks or 60 bucks. Who cares? And who cares if it's your competitor? It's the same philosophy. You're going to Walmart and you're purchasing RA. As an RA purchaser, just as I do, who cares who Walmart sells it to? Whether they sell to one person, each person's buying one item, or you're buying them all. They want them out of their store. They want the space. That shelf space is expensive. Every 3 feet in a store is a ton of money. So, who cares? I mean, that's just how I think of it. I'm not going to worry about that kind of stuff. So, not to go off, it may depend on certain items that you have that this philosophy may not work. I can't tell you on your specifics, but I can tell you on everything I sell, what I talk about is how it works for me and how I do my business. So, let's see. Nevermore. We are doing about 10K a month on eBay. I can't sell on Amazon. Yeah, I heard you on the chat earlier this morning on Bearded Pickers chat. You can still get back on there if you're really wanting to do it. Just FYI, I know people who have been kicked off and they still sell. I know people who have multiple Amazon accounts actually on there. I know as an individual person, you're not supposed to do that. If you've got a couple businesses, I've seen many people do that where they'll sell one type of item in one business and another type in another business on Amazon. I've never looked into that aspect of it, but I've been told it's okay depending on how it's set up. So, and again, you can do another account if need be on Amazon, just like you can on eBay. I mean, I don't have to worry about it, and no criticisms towards you at all, Nevermore, because you got a good thing going on there, and I watch your videos as well too. So. Heart of Dixie Flipper. What are you selling on Amazon? New, used, old, retail, all of the above. I sell vintage. I sell vintage records. I sell collectibles. I sell a ton of wholesale. I do RA, FBA, and then merchant fulfilled as well too. It all can work on there. I talked about this in a video just the other day. You have to know your markets. Each platform is different. Each platform you can sell certain things on and certain things won't sell. I wouldn't sell like military items on Etsy. We sell on Etsy, but I wouldn't sell military items. There's certain collectibles and crafts items that I would only sell on Etsy because I'll get a little more money on Etsy for some items. For the most part, most like NOS collectibles or NOS craft items go on eBay. They sell better. Sometimes, obviously, if it's NOS, I still sell it on Amazon. I sell vintage toys, Funko Pops. RA is a real good thing for us. I don't really care what it is if it's RA. I've talked about many collectible items that I do RA as well for too. Cufflinks, jewelry, I can do RA on, believe it or not. I do, and I call this out, so I'm not giving away any secret. I had talked about sheet music before. Some of that can be done RA. You can buy it in bulk. You can buy it wholesale. You can do paper dolls, and there's tons of modern paper dolls on Amazon, and I sell those on Amazon as well too. That's one of my wholesale. There's some items, though, that I am the only one and have been for many years on Amazon that we do wholesale. And I'm not going to talk about those items at all because I'm the only person selling them and have been. There's very few niches that you can find that no one else is selling on it. So if you do find a niche or something that no one else is selling other than you or maybe one Amazon or Amazon itself, don't ever tell anybody. It's the only way you're going to keep that category safe, that item safe, those items safe. Again, I don't share everything with everybody because of that reason. I don't discuss some of our other sites because there are some secrets to what we do. Everybody has these secrets. Every person on YouTube does not share a large chunk of what they do. Everybody doesn't do that. There'll just be anybody who does share everything is cutting their own throat to some extent. I can't have competition in certain categories. I can give you all the basics and tell you how to do it, but I just can't give you the items. There isn't any amount of money that would allow me to do that just because, again, we do make a lot of money off of wholesale deals, and wholesale deals are the way to go for many people. So let's see where we at now. We'll try to answer as many questions. Let's see how we're running on time here. Yeah, we're almost to the hour point, so hang on here. If we need to go a little later today, I have no problem today. As I said, I've got a pick in the morning, so my schedule's different. So if I stay up a little late tonight, I am not worried. In fact, one of the shows we watch is on tonight, so. FUG, Don, what do you think about eBay changing over to an Etsy-style managed payment system? I noticed the other day when redeeming my eBay coupons, no PayPal. You know, they've been doing it. You know, Etsy's basically the same basic collection system. I don't have a problem with it. I've been using Etsy for a while, so I'm already fine with how they do it. It's going to lower our costs. The only thing I can say is anytime I've been scammed on PayPal, PayPal has taken care of it. Even before they knew what was going on, they've already put the money back into my account. And, you know, I didn't have to worry about it. And then I never had to deal with the issue again with PayPal. I know in certain cases people have been ripped off. The last one with PayPal, somebody had charged $400 to my PayPal business card in California, believe it or not. You know, they could obviously tell I wasn't in California. But I just canceled the card. I have a second one in another name on that same account, so I wasn't out a card. If you're a husband and wife team, you can, or a business account on PayPal, obviously you can have multiple cards issued to employees as well too. So, and the wife's listed as an employee, so for us that works fine. So if I do have to stop a card, I can just, you know, use the other card until a new one gets in my name. No big deal. So that's just one philosophy, one thinking about this. So you got to be safe all the way around. Let me hop that back down here. Let's see here. Hoptman. I'm thinking of shutting down my Amazon sales and doing local sales in flea markets. I wouldn't, personally, I wouldn't do it with what I have. Local markets just aren't enough for what I sell. I would be dead in the water if I was trying to sell the type of items that I personally sell, the vintage and stuff, or even my wholesale, trying to sell them locally. You're competing with too many people. Locally, pretty much what I see for sale are other sellers just trying to get rid of their stuff that's just not worth selling online. In flea markets, I used to set up at flea markets, you know, years back, and for years we did it. We did Webster's in Florida, if you're familiar with that. Used to go there Monday mornings. I'd be there at 4 in the morning in the dark and set up by 5:30. I'd be leaving by like 9 or 10 when it started to get hot. I've done all that route. I've even used to set up in antique booths. Overhead will kill you. You don't have enough floor traffic or foot traffic in any of those locations to get it going. You're just going to be running into people at flea markets wanting the good deal that they can buy it from you, and then they'll turn around and sell it on eBay. I personally wouldn't go that route these days. I know there's people who swear by some of the antique malls. Again, it depends on the foot traffic. If you've got a swamped, like in California, a antique mall can be a good business because you've got other people like Hollywood people buying stuff for movies and things like that too. We're actually on a couple of lists for studios that buy items because we've sold some in the past, and there's ways to get involved in that too. So we do sell some to some of those type of people too, in museums and things like that too. There's ways to get in contact with these people and offer services. So just FYI, I'm not going to go into details on that too because that's taken me a long time to build the rapport with museums and production companies in general. It's few and far between to get those contacts these days. Everybody deals with like buyers, basically, like a big industrial buyer. Even for like a good example, like Cracker Barrels have all the antiques in there. Cracker Barrel has as a company or part of their company is just buyers. They'll sit out there and they'll buy signs, the soda signs, and all those signs, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them a week. And I've seen the warehouse. It's just this massive building with just, it would be a dream come true if you could pick at Cracker Barrel's Antiques Warehouse. I am telling you, it's probably one of the neatest collection of signs I've ever seen in my life in one spot. It rivals any of the auction catalogs I've seen with signs, in all honesty, but that's another case there. I would honestly think about sticking it out on Amazon and eBay and branching out to some other sites as opposed to doing local and flea markets, in my personal opinion. Would you add Amazon for vintage items? As I said, I do vintage items. You're going to have to figure out which type of vintage items will sell on Amazon. Most items, the average vintage item won't sell very well. There are some that do. Historical items do sell, and as I've talked about, certain records sell incredibly well. I sell 78s better on Amazon than I do on eBay or Discogs. And if you don't know what Discogs is a record-only site. That's all it's there for is records. So if you don't know about that, you're missing out on that, at least for some of the cheaper ones. But again, 78 records for us sell better on Amazon. Religiously, across the board. I mark them up 20, 30, 40% higher than I do on eBay. Because, again, the fees are a little higher on Amazon for some of the items. But I still make more money on every 78 that I sell on Amazon than I do on anywhere else on the net. Shocker to me, because I expected a 78 would not sell on Amazon. But Amazon does sell new records, so that's your in. You're going to have to get ungated for vintage vinyl, I can tell you. You'll have to get ungated to sell collectibles. You're going to have to bug the heck out of them to get into the collectibles field, because they block off quite often historical and collectibles and limit the amount of people on there. They may be pushing again. When I got up and got ungated on it was more than, well, it was almost 2 years ago now. Things change, so that's why I say you need to hammer this, get yourself ungated. For me, it was worth the risk of spending that $40 a month for, it's $39.99 or $39.95. It's worth their business fee to do that. It's to try it at least. Even if I didn't sell anything right away, I still would have done it. So just FYI on that. Well, thank you very kindly, Marie C. I honestly appreciate that super chat from you. I saw you on the other channel the other day, too. So, again, I appreciate when people do that. No one's required to do anything extra for me. You know, I'm not trying to rake out on this here. I do like doing YouTube. I like the conversations. I like learning stuff. I talked about this on, I think it was Scott's show. Somebody turned me on to something, a subscriber the other day, something that blew my mind, that we're still trying to comprehend the abilities to market it ourselves. So there's always new ways. I learn from subscribers. So, you know, there's so much usefulness on YouTube here. So I thank you very kindly from the bottom of my heart. I sincerely do thank you. So thank you, Marie. Now, if we can get this to do what it's supposed to, you have to give me just a second here. My feed is terrible. There we go. Again, though, thank you. Let me see here. Where are we at? Yeah, good numbers, as I said, Nevermore. That is good numbers. Amazon Seller 99. You may be able to get the account reinstated even years later. Just depends on exactly why it was suspended. Yeah, that is true too. You know, there is the route to go and get like an undercover site, but I wouldn't do that. You know, it's just my opinion. You may be able to call them if you can show that you were, you know, a responsible long-term seller on eBay. That usually is enough. Showing my eBay account to Amazon actually did help. I did send some screenshots and things, and with the documents where it says you can actually you know, you have to upload invoices. I've uploaded, you know, screenshots and things in some of those as well in the past too. Just FYI. I know they look at them. Those are manual only approvals for the most part on some of those types. Let's go down and get a few more. Let's see here. Let's see, Anthony. If you have return set to buyer pays and they claim it doesn't fit, they pay. Yes, that very well could be the case, but they can also leave you negative feedback, and it can hit you in other ways, too. You also can't, I don't think, as well, I don't have that option here. Everything's free returns on my, but if I'm not mistaken, that you can't deduct any money from the return either with a paid return like that. So you have to pretty much give them a full refund. Or they can challenge it. With a free returns, they cannot challenge you if you only give them a partial refund. You fully have that option with free returns. So I will always stick with the free returns no matter what, in my personal opinion, no matter what happens. Let's see here. Where are we at? Yeah, Flippin' South answered that question on how I ship. Yeah, international shipping, Flipping South has a good point there. A good call on that one. I track everything overseas. Every single thing going overseas has some form of tracking. I only ship through directly to certain countries. Those countries that I will ship directly to are Canada, Germany, France, England, Australia, and what's the other one? Actually, and Japan. I will ship directly to those countries I just shouted out. Directly as a first-class international up to 4 pounds. Anything over 4 pounds, I will ship through the global shipping program only. Anything. And any of the other countries I didn't mention are global shipping program only. There's been 1 or 2 cases where I've shipped directly to China. only because it's somebody that we've had some business relations with in the past. And I'm pretty confident with the record and what we've got going on with these folks that I can trust them. You know, I do business with a Chinese company. I know people are going to dog on me for that. They're the only company on the planet that makes what I buy from them. The only one. There is no other source for the items. So in some cases, when you're running into developing new items and new things and new electronics, you have to deal with China. Good, bad, or indifferent, I have no choice in the world to do it. It's an item that even if they did make it over here, the cost to make it and the quantity they'd make in this country would be so slim because it's a new thing on the market. Me and my son have been working on something. We actually have a couple patents pending on something. He's got a utility patent and a provisional patent issued right now. So, you know, there are some things that you have to deal with China, you know, good, bad, or indifferent again. But the folks we deal with have been very nice. My son has 2 kids from China that are in one of his classes that he's known for years. And they've actually been nice enough to come by the house, and they've done the phone conversations, which was a huge, and I do mean huge, in for us to get on the good graces of some companies where I don't see any funny business going around. They're not screwing me over at all. We're actually on a fairly level playing field for once. You know, again, I'm not trying to glorify anything or anything like that, but, you know, you have to deal with other companies. Thanks, Thrift Trader. Yeah, hit the like button if you haven't hit the like button. I'm terrible on calling that kind of stuff out. Yeah, I'm more interested. I get into the comments and the questions, and I kind of just go off on those. So, Heart of Dixie Flipper. Love FBA. I love FBA too. FBA has been a game changer, and I fully... For us, what we sell, our business doesn't go monstrously up during the fourth quarter because we have no loss in the summer, I'll say. So it's always great to find another way to boost fourth quarter and even in the first quarter extra around the holidays because, you know, tax time, you got Christmas expenses, you want to have some fun and enjoy yourself. FBA has been that source for us. The first year we did FBA, we only made I want to say like $2,600 bottom line, you know, net at the end of the day for the month of December extra on there. Now it's, I won't even tell you how high it is nowadays, but that's nothing compared to what you can do on FBA. You know, FBA is like, it's like RA on steroids. You know, you can RA anywhere, you know, but FBA is the cream of the crop when it comes to RA. It's the best place to get the most money for any of your items across the board. Things will sell 20 times what you can buy them for sometimes if you can get them on clearance, or you can find them improperly marked. It could be a hot toy. Part of this goes back to me buying wholesale and going to like trade shows and knowing what could be popular ahead of time. And we were talking about like discontinued items too. That's another aspect of, you know, RA and wholesale too. I've got some ins on that. Some items are like announced before the public knows that they're going to be discontinued. And sometimes I'm lucky enough with wholesale deals to know ahead of time to be able to get on some of these. So there's many ways to get RA, but RA is the bomb. I'm telling you, RA is the bomb for us. I can't do it constantly, the quantities that I do in fourth and first quarter, the beginning of first quarter, but enough makes up to add across the year. You know, we just stockpile. I don't blow my money. I don't buy fancy cars. I don't buy anything like that. Again, nothing wrong with anybody who does. My priorities are other places. I've got a son who has some heart issues. He's got electrophysiologist or a pediatric electrophysiologist and a pediatric cardiologist. You know, all of our money is going to be set aside. Who knows? The bills are coming in now, and if you've ever seen a cardiologist bill for an adult, multiply that by many factors to see a pediatric cardiologist. Like the electrophysiologist, there's only like 100 in the entire country. Like 102 that even will do a child or mess with a child. So, you know, my priorities are other places at this time. So, let me see here. Let's get down. Everything in the UK seems fine. Never had any issues ever with high value items over 1,000. I do use UPS for high value international. I have sent some items, high dollar records, $1,000, $4,000, 45 records to England. Usually when I do that, I will send them registered with tracking in the whole works. Only bad part about that is you have to go down to the post office, wait in line to get that done. You cannot do that at a kiosk or online because they actually seal it. So, and then from their hands, the post office's hands, it goes in a locked bag. And, you know, from that point on, it's locked all the way to the point of delivery. So, again, that's key. And I track everything. I track every single thing. Even if it wasn't for the sake of wanting the tracking, I want that discount. 1% may not sound like much, but when you sell a lot, you're talking thousands of dollars at the end of the year. You know, thousands of dollars at the end of the year. Just keep that in mind. Anybody have... Oh, wait. Let me see. I didn't want to miss anybody. Hang on. My feed just bounced. I just lost a huge chunk of my feed. Hang on. Let me pop back up. Yeah, I guess I'm way off on my feed. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can find where we were at now. Yeah, I ship paper with tracking. Aaron's. Hi, Aaron. How you doing? Jeez, I must be way off on my feed. Sorry, folks. Give me just a second here. Yeah, my feed's all over the place. I am so sorry. I am so far off on my feed. Yeah, let me catch back up here. I can't even figure out where I'm at anymore. My feed just keeps bouncing every time I get up to it. Hang on, I think I got it. Diverse flips. Yeah, OMFG, I sold on Amazon when they were trying out eBay style auctions. Yeah, I remember those two. I didn't mess with it then, but I wished I would have gotten in back then. They have his photo on the bulletin board. You never know, they may. Hang on just a second. There goes my feed again. Let's see here. Amazon seller 999. I get it, but just FYI. I saw hundreds of vintage and used items on Amazon every month, and they usually sell for 1.5 to 2 times eBay's rates. That's true. That is true on many of the items that we sell. It's taken me 2+ years. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. You're welcome to pop it back down in there and put the @ the auction professor, and I'll see it a little better. But we'll start here just because I don't want to waste too much time getting to the questions. I'll stay on a lot later today if I have to try and get to a bunch of these questions, because I know I do get some complaints about not getting to everybody. I try to answer everybody's question, though, so that's the key to this. But vintage items sell in there. You're going to have to figure out what does and doesn't sell. And again, you're going to have to get ungated in collectibles and historical items. That's a whole nother category. It's a lot harder. You're going to have to produce... Basically, what I sent in was upload sheets to Amazon to get unlocked. And it's basically the title and a bunch of items that I plan on listing on Amazon. And then they'll approve it from there. A person has to physically look at those when you're in the collectibles field. Now, any of the other ones that you send in invoices to, they actually have a machine. It's actually digitally looked at, just FYI. Let's see here. When you do vintage on Amazon, are you doing FBA? I do not do FBA for vintage. I don't think that's even an option as far as I understand it. Let's see here. Yeah, Nevermore does have a good channel. I do watch some of his videos as well, too. So if you haven't checked him out, be my guest. That would be a good start. If you don't know, if those 3 dots next to anybody in my feed, if you click on those 3 dots, it will actually take you to one of their channels. Just FYI if you're new. Let me see here where we at. Again, my feed is just terrible these days. I don't know if it's my provider or not. Yeah, Kathy says they don't have Poshmark or McCrary in Australia, which is true. I've heard that from somebody else as well, too. There are other options I would hope for you at least. Maybe there would be more local options there just because there isn't a lot of online competition. I'm not really sure. Duncan, who's on here, he's from Australia too. I would love to go there, and I was a big, huge fan of Steve Irwin. He was the bomb for animals. I would go, except I had a bad run-in with a brown recluse and spent 2 months bedridden from a poisonous spider bite, and I'm skittish on the spider aspect these days. Not much scares me or bugs me, but the spider aspect does. I almost died from a tiny little spider about that big, so literally almost died. No exaggeration. Good evening, Thomas. How are you doing? If I missed anybody, I do apologize. I'm trying to get through the questions now because I think I've rambled on too long today. So let's see where we're at. I wish the feed was better. I could probably get through some of these better. OMFUG, Amazon, or I'm sorry, Etsy has taken over as my main platform. That can very well be too. Or Etsy is a good site. I have to agree. We do sell a lot of items on there. I've been playing around and trying to figure out, some other ways to cross-list items. So I'm working on that now too, without paying the horrendous fees that you would have to pay for a third-party site. Cross-listing, again, we're working on that. We're doing some other aspects of it here. So eBay may not be the best site for everybody, but for me it is. But I sell on Etsy too, and I'm very happy with all the sites we sell on. I've got a bottleneck now, which I discussed with my Patreon group. I do have a Patreon group. We're on 9 sites. I don't have any physical way to get on another site right now and still be able to successfully run it. I do have another employee that started this week on Monday, so hopefully with the extra help, maybe we can branch out even a little farther. Maybe worth looking into getting your Amazon account reinstated even if you don't do RA. Yeah, that could very well be. I honestly agree with that too. Amazon, again, 56% of every person going to look for anything to buy goes straight to Amazon first. Google confirms that that's the case. Google is looking at Amazon's search criteria and Google's specific SEOs. So, that's huge. That's huge. eBay will always be the best out for antiques and collectibles. That very well may be. For me, it's the best. Again, I do sell similar items on Etsy, usually not for more than I would on eBay. But I'm very specific on some items I sell on eBay in general. It's mostly paper items. I know Etsy's a huge market too. Maybe in a couple of years it might be a big difference and Etsy might sell a little better. It's just hard to say. Etsy is okay as far as I'm concerned. I have no issues with Etsy whatsoever, nor have I ever had an issue with Etsy in all the years we've done Etsy, and we've been on Etsy for quite some time. Let me see where we're at. There goes my feed. Again, this is getting to be old. Again, if I missed you, I apologize. Cosmic Thrifter, how are you doing? Pickup Chick, how are you doing? If I didn't say hello. I see no ads for eBay. I see lots of Amazon and Posh, Letgo, or Crary, but no eBay. I hear eBay all the time on the radio if I happen to have the radio on. I almost never have the radio on, though. We've got an XM radio that I bought at Savers for $3.99 years ago. It came with lifetime service, which I did not know. I bought it to reflip, and that thing has been in my car for maybe 5 years, and I had a 30% discount because I dropped off clothes that day, so we got it for $2 something. It came with the adapters, all the stuff. We've used that same XM radio. That is my favorite purchase of all times to flip, is my XM radio, because I use it constantly. That is my favorite thing to listen to in the car, is my XM. Again, I paid like less than $3 for it. A lot of those XMs I found people throw away, like the test model when the models aren't good anymore, things like that. Or I'll buy them at a garage sale and they wouldn't even know it had a lifetime service. I've gotten 4 lifetime service XM radios and a bunches of ones that didn't have a lifetime service. So I've got one set aside for both of my kids if they want it when they get, to that point. They do need to advertise more online, Reseller King, though. That is true. I will agree with you 100% there as well, too. I think they are working on it, though. Yeah, Nevermore, I can see he's talking about the draconian policies Amazon has. This is a capitalistic environment. If you want to play in someone's store or in their market, you got to follow the rules. I understand the thinking on it, and no criticizing towards you at all, Nevermore at all, because I've had that philosophy. My life and my thoughts have changed so drastically year by year. With December and my son, I don't care what I got to do if I got to bend over backwards to be successful at something. Amazon is the bomb in my book, so just as eBay is and the other sites that we sell on. If I got to bend over backwards or I got to play in their field, that's fine. If I go in the ocean, I make sure that I'm doing it at my own risk. I got to play by the ocean's rules, or whatever you're doing, got to play by their rules in my book. And I'm not criticizing you in any way, shape, or form, because everybody has their own opinions on this. Everything I do for my family. So, if I've got to grovel, or bend over to help somebody. You know, I'm not a brown noser, so to speak, but, you know, the rules are the rules of the platform, and I like what I get back in my returns on it. I like the amount of money that I get out of it. I can't get those markups on anything, and even the vintage items. Like I said, the 78 records, I'd rather get $100 for a 78 record on Amazon, even with the higher fees, than only get 20 or 30 bucks on eBay or 20 or 30 bucks on Discogs. As I sell the same records on 3 different sites, and they're different prices on each one of those sites. You know, you just got to play the field when you do this. So, you know, I would recommend you, honestly, Nevermore, checking it out. Just my personal opinion, you know, but that's your call. Again, not trying to be mean or dogging you at all, because you got a good thing going there. Your sales are good. You've got good channel and the whole works. So, yeah, other people are saying Etsy is good too. I can tell you, I've never had an issue with Etsy, never. On any of the aspects I do on Etsy. Here we go again. I'm sorry. If I missed your question, I do apologize. My feed again is just terrible. I'm trying to find out where we're at. I'm just gonna pop down one here. Kathy Steele, I think you have video on corkscrews. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That would be kind of barware, now that you mention it. Let's see here. Hey, Chris, Thrift Shop Hustler. He's got a good channel. He just hit 7,000. You're ahead of me, Chris. How dare you? But you were ahead of me to start with, so I won't hold that against you. I'm listing vintage hat pins right now. First time with those. Watch out on the vintage hat pins. Some of those vintage hat pins are gold, and they will not be marked if they're vintage prior to, say, the turn of the century, or they'll be marked on the pin itself if they're solid gold. Watch out on those, Chris. I'm telling you, I've had gold, solid gold ones. I've even had platinum ones. Some of those hat pins that we've sold with Victorian ladies' buttons on them, especially the red ones, have gold in the glass. That's what made the red color back in those days. And we've sold those for hundreds of dollars for a hat pin. If you don't know what a hat pin is, that was for the fancy hats prior to, say, 1940s. They're long stick pins. Sometimes it looks like a button on the end. Sometimes they actually use buttons. And they'd go through the hat into the hair to help hold the hat on. It's something that they just don't use very much anymore. Some people do, some of the fancier hats. The Red Hat Society or something, I've seen hat pins for them. But hat pins are the bomb, too. That's actually on my list, believe it or not, to talk about hat pins. Because I do get them occasionally, and a lot of people don't even know what a hat pin is. So I can score on stuff like that fairly easily. OMFUG, I don't do high-end jewelry anymore. I used to, and I didn't have much issue. These days, I do scrap gold more than anything else. I've got a bag of it sitting over here ready to go right now. We pick a specific one. They're usually in most towns, if you do scrap, and I've talked about this before, so if you heard it, I'm not trying to repeat this for you, but if you do scrap, there's usually one place in town that buys it from everybody else. They'll be the one that has their own facility to melt it down themselves. So I call around in town within the same hour. I'll do it a couple times a month usually if I'm selling some. And I'll call around to see who's paying the most for gold and for silver and platinum. And that's where I go with it. Whoever pays the most is where I usually go to. I'll get a rapport with that person. I'll double check at a couple times, a couple months in a row, to see if it was just a lark or, you know, something else is going on. And I found the person in this town who pays the most. He makes his own jewelry. He pays more than everybody else, and he does buy from most of the other vendors. Because, again, most of the pawn shops and scrap buyers and stuff, they don't melt it themselves. There's a real good episode on South Park talking about this whole process, going on about the gold and cash for gold and things like that. So, and it's actually honestly explained very well in South Park. Maybe you're not a South Park fan or not, but I'm sure if you type in Cash for Gold South Park on YouTube, you're going to get a good explanation of how that whole process works. So I know that may sound crazy, but they're legit, pretty straight on the scam on part of those as well, too. So let's see here. Where are we? How you doing, David? Returns help with SEO as well. I would say that is honestly the case too as well. All those features you offer help rank you wherever you're selling at. So if you're not offering returns, you've got bad feedback, you're going to rank lower on anything. You know, and it's not like they're penalizing you. The search engine optimization is going to show whatever you're looking for, whether it's news article or what, they want to show you the most relevant. the thing that's going to be most important to you, and if you're looking at only listings that have a good return policy, or you only buy from vendors who just mysteriously happen to have a good return policy, it's going to show you mostly people that have a good return policy. It's not going to show you those that say no return. That's pretty much almost a fact, I would say, from the results that I've seen. And we've run tests galore all the time. I talk to other sellers who run tests and try this out and try that out. For those of you, and I'm sure that I see several on here that have been on for a long time, I'm sure you've run the same kind of things, trying to figure out if there's other ways to increase your sales, other ways to get more things going. You know, I run tests on everything, so just FYI. The wife did say hi. She does have some things going on tonight, as I said. We do split up and do things. You know, she'll take care of one aspect of the business while I'm doing something else. So, unfortunately, she was not on. I love having her on, so, you know, it's always, you know, it's just the way it goes. So anyway, I'm going to kill my chat. Hang on. I just lost something as I was just pulling it up. Where are we at? Okay, hang on just a second here. Thrift Shop Hustler. There's Junkin' Data Girl. Love hairpins and make it. Yeah, hairpins are awesome. People do make them. She's got some videos on making stuff too. Junk Data Girl as well too. Junking Data Girl, I'm sorry. You would look gorgeous. Let's see here. Yeah, it's an interesting niche, Chris. You are definitely right there. Yeah, OMFUG returns. I very rarely get them. The one I got today was from the same person who was doing it to a bunch of different sellers. So that's an anomaly. You know, I don't know when the last return I have it. They're very rare, very few and very far between. You know, even if it's like 1/10 of 1% of my sales over the year, it's just not worth even treating the other customers by not offering returns bad like that. I just won't do that. Flipping south. I would personally never ship without tracking. Yeah, same here. I won't ship without tracking at all. A lot of people selling postcard paper and shipping via envelope. Yeah, I don't do that at all either. Yeah, if everybody shipped every item with tracking, everybody would have to do it. If more and more people did it, there wouldn't be these options for them to buy it that way. Selling postcards, even $4 and $5 postcards, and still selling with tracking. If they went to a antique mall or an antique store trying to get a specific postcard, first, they're not going to find it, and second, they're going to pay about what they would if they bought it from me with shipping in the first place. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Everybody's allowed their own options as well too. So if Amazon Seller 99 is comfortable with that, that's fine. Some people do sell more items if they just pop it in an envelope. Mostly it's people who do postcards or postage stamps. Every postage stamp person I've ever dealt with just throws them in an envelope, and I won't do that personally. Again, I have tracking and everything. I want that 1% discount at the end of the year because again, it's thousands of dollars. Let's see here. Pickup Chick says the clock eye. Yeah, there is a clock eye I've seen on here too. I do mess with clocks. I'm great on researching them. You're welcome to post a picture of it in my Facebook group, but I'm no major pro. I can fix most of the issues, especially the ones with the mainspring. There's ways you can fix them up. I've oiled them and taken them apart. It's very dangerous if you've ever taken apart a clock's mainspring. So if you haven't done it, you need to look into it. So don't just start fixing your own clocks. Just FYI, you can cut yourself really bad if that mainspring lets go and it just flops all over the place. I've seen it before, so it's an ugly sight. Let's see here. Let me pop down and get some more going in here. Yeah, and Aaron says the same thing. I think I've actually talked about that one here. Big Drift is in Hawaii. Oh, that's interesting, huh? Love that shirt. Let's move on down here. Let's see. Unless you're a very careless seller, most people keep the item they buy. Returns are generally no big deal. Same here. If somebody returns something, I list it again. I, get my fees back from eBay, and I'm off and I go again. If it was a BS return, I block that person, then I move on as well. They can't leave negative feedback if they returned it. So, again, I don't worry. Yeah, hit the like button if you haven't. I know I'm terrible again on saying that. A lot of people just don't hit it. No big deal. It does help out the channel. If you haven't hit the like button and you do enjoy the content, please hit the like button for us. Let's see here. I do free shipping and do buyer paid returns 30 days. Rather do the return than get a item not as described. You can do buyer paid returns. I'm on the free return because, again, they can still, even if you're not getting an item not as described, they can still leave you negative feedback for any reason on a return. So that's just my take on it. I just feel that's the way I want to run mine. Nothing, again, wrong with the way you do yours because it depends on what you sell to some extent. Ben here. What is the secret to finding the winning product? Depends on where you're selling it at. Amazon, it's rank. Check your ranks. Get some of the other programs. Keepa helps you source and things like that. And ranking, Camel. Inventory Lab's a big help for some of what we do. But ranking is really key on that. On eBay, you just got to know your markets and know what's around you. I mean, I know where I can find the stuff you see me sell. Postcards, paper, labels, any of the stuff you see me sell over and over again. Vintage toys or anything, I know where to get them at, and I know what I'm looking for to find the best items. So I don't have to have, you know, $10,000 items or $1,000 items. The majority of our stuff is like in the maybe $36 range right now. That's their average sale price, I would say, at this point. Let's see here. Amazon seller saying he ships everything with tracking as well, even though the cost is substantially more for light paper types. Again, I don't pay for shipping on anything, so I don't mind adding it on. If somebody has a problem with it, they have a problem with it. For the most part, I sell a lot of rare and scarce items, so you know they got to come to me to get it. So if you run or control your market, you're all set. In one category, I have the majority of the items in there. I'm the seller with the most. I have over 25% in one category is just my stuff, and there's no even close seller that comes close to me. So I set the pace, I guess you could say, to some extent on that, at least in that category. Who does eBay promoted listings here? I don't pay for the eBay ones. I'll take that back. I ran a 1% the other day on, I think, 1,000 items. I haven't even went back and looked at it yet. I usually let them run for a week or two, and sometimes 30 days, and then I'll go back and check. And then I'll compare them to my managed markdown, which is actually the free one that you can do on your own. Let's see here. Here's Junk and Data Girl. Impressions can be important. Tells you the number of times your listings appeared to potential buyers in a search if you impressions. Yeah, I understand how it works. For me, though, it's such a scarce item. Most of the time, someone's window shopping if they're viewing my item, and so the impression for me it's not going to change what I do. There's no change in the majority of my vintages. Now, different story on my other store. You know, if it's a wholesale item or our item, I do want to know that information to see if I'm doing something wrong. You know, there is a play on that. But if you're selling vintage and collectibles, for me, it's just going to take the right person. I can look at the impressions, but for me, there's nothing I can do with them because my items are oddball stuff or one or offs, or there's only 10 or 20 of these up at any 90-day period. So, you know, there's just not much I can do with it if the right person isn't on there or, you know, isn't online at that time. So, again, the impressions can be good. As I said, there are some very good, useful reasons to use impressions. But for what I share with everyone here, I don't use impressions. Again, it is a good tool for certain things, but for vintage and collectibles, I mean, I already know the ins and outs. And again, I'm not some wizard or anything. I've just done this for 20 plus years. So I know the ins and outs and what I sell. You know, I wouldn't have a clue on selling sports items or sports cards or, you know, a lot of stuff. But the stuff that I sell, I know because that's how you make the market work for you. So, again, I'm not going to ramble on that here. I don't restart my promoted listings at all like that. I'll just let them run. Hang on, I had another one of the impressions I wanted to read. If your impressions are low, check your title and category. Yeah, that's a good point on that. That is one thing you can do. I know the titles and the categories I want to list my items in because, again, I sell the same items over and over and over again. That's part of the plus of having a niche. Instead of just having tons of different items, I'd rather have 5 to 10 solid good categories than hundreds of categories that I just can't control. If you center in on a few and then work your way up from there, you'll be able to understand that specific niche's market. Perfect example with the impressions. That's a good point there, Junk and Data Girl. For me, I don't use them because I don't need to, I guess I should say. I know what I sell and what title is gonna peg it off. I constantly get people sending me, listings, especially in my Patreon group, which is what I want them to do. If you don't have a listing in my Patreon group that's selling or it's been up for a while, send it to me. I'll be happy to look at it and give you some pointers. Usually I can point to a title description wrong, your photo's bad, or you're missing some keywords that would sell it better than other items here. Like not listing like a real picture postcard. You may not realize it's an occupational postcard. You just see man in a factory doing work. If you put occupational in that title, that keyword search, occupational in a real photo postcard will sell it better than it will if it didn't have that in there. That's just a perfect example of a keyword. So just FYI. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, again, it goes to, she's Junk and Data Girl. She is right on that. If you're new to eBay, impressions could very well be a key thing to you. Again, I try to talk about what I do. I don't mess with them too much other than specifics in my wholesale. But I do use other tools besides eBay for that, which actually offer you some better information in some aspects, at least better for what I want. Like Terapeak and such forth can be good for some folks. I don't use it as much, or at all, honestly. I have used it in the past when a friend had it. But again, there's all kinds of different apps and stuff that you can use to make this good. Impressions can be a good one if you understand what you're looking for in that. Again, usually it's a keyword, a description, your photo, something like that isn't going to be right if the item's not selling. At least that's, again, my personal experience from doing this for 20 plus years. You can sell, I'm not sure if you're talking about selling one-of-a-kind items on Amazon, but I have Homemade by Amazon now, so you can sell one-offs. You can sell one piece of artwork. You can sell any of that stuff on Amazon. There is an honest market for it. They are trying to rival Etsy right this minute with that. So, get it on the ground floor if you can, in my opinion. Just like Hazmat on Amazon. If you get an invite or you're able to get yourself weaseled into an invite, do it. Even if you don't do it, who cares? At least you're ungated and you're ready to go in it. Because we have sold some items like bulk.com. In the past, we've bought pallets of the flea medicine, tons of it that had still a year to go on the expiration date. This was, a few years ago, and we sold it out really quickly. And I mean, really, and I'm talking a ton of it. It was like 700 or 800 units of it in the bulk purchase that we bought. I use PL for both eBay and Amazon. It's not cheap, but if you margins are good, you can still make good money, and you will definitely sell more. I mean, there's tons of different things that you can use. I have some apps that I use too that I can't say they're secrets, but I don't go into much detail on some of them. I wouldn't want somebody to have a bad experience just because I'm having a good one. Everything I do is what I do. I can't guarantee it's going to work for everybody else here, but I honestly try to give you the best honest information that I can. It would make no sense for me to give you bad information. I just don't get why anybody would want to give you bad information. It's not like I'm going to make it rich sitting here pumping out some videos on it. I like talking and doing what I do. So it comes back to, again, I got ADD and OCD, and, it helps to get some of this stuff out, just the way it is. You should make a few videos on how to sell vintage and collectibles on Amazon. I have touched a little bit on listing on Amazon in my Patreon group, and only in my Patreon group. I can't really go into that too much, only because I would have to show you my account. And most people will not show you, including me, their Amazon account, because you can get tanked on Amazon just by some jealous person or a troll at any point. So Amazon, I would rather keep secret beyond belief than anything else. And again, I sell some items on Amazon that I'm the only one selling them. So, you just got to be cautious in what you do. Yeah, Junk and Data Girls talking about the photo and so on. Again, there's many ways to find out that same information. Impressions can help you, though, if you understand those as well. Nevermore says he ends his and restarts him after 5 days. It is trending down, and we'll see if it gets that bump. Yeah, I don't know how good that is. I did find out that if you waited, you ended something, let it set, and then you relisted it after that, it could give you a bump. I don't go in and end anything like that anymore at all. I've just got too many. It's just not worth me doing it. I've done all the tests. I've done all the experiments. The last experiment I did was with 30 days, and then after doing months of these tests, eBay gets rid of the 30 days, so I'm not going to waste my time on that again. My sales are going fine. I don't have any issues with it, so at this point, I'm not going to mess with that. Let's see, I think we're getting towards... Yeah, I'll go some more because we still have a lot of questions. I don't even know if I'm halfway through these yet. My feed is just terrible. I'm sorry. Yeah, and Sam Dallas is talking about every 3 and 5 days he's rotating those two. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't give away every secret here. There's a few other comments on that too. I'm not going to share certain things with you. I do tend to share more on my Patreon. I do go into more in-depth BOLO videos that say specifics, but that's where I'm going to put stuff like that out there. Again, I'm not trying to milk anybody or anything like that. I put a lot of time, and I do mean a lot of time. If I've got a 20-minute video on it, you've got to estimate that it took at least 20 minutes to film it, at least 20 minutes to edit it, at bare bones minimum. Just the animation in the beginning of my video was almost 40 hours to do, because all those items in there were hand cut out from actual items that I've sold or still have. I don't think I have any of them anymore, but those are all items that I had. So I cut those out and animate them. Everything I do in these videos is money. It's time. So, you know, I have moved some things and doing certain things only for my Patreon. So no offense to anybody else, you know. I gotta at least cover my time to some extent here. So let's go down and see if I can get some more questions in here, because I know I always get comments that I don't finish the questions. Again, I do try and answer every one. Flippin' South talking about the 1% promoted listings. I do 1%. I don't mess with the RA on 1%. Usually those all go to Amazon unless it's a gated item. There's not many gated items that I will buy for RA unless I know that I can flip them. We can sell Legos on Amazon. So this last fourth quarter I did, oh my God, a ton of elves. The elf sets from Amazon, or on Amazon RA. And most of those I got from Burlington Coat Factory and stores along that line the day they walked into the store. So they didn't even go out on the floor at one store. So bought every one they had. Thrift shop. Chris is joking about OCD. Is a good thing. It is and it isn't, because even if I sit there until I get it done or whatever the case may be, sometimes, you know, it makes for long days for me because I can't stop something some days. I get fidgety if I don't get it finished. I don't go on medication. I'm not a medication person. I won't do any of the prescription junk anymore. Let's see here. OMFUG, I will not do any of their managed payments until it's totally clear and ready to go. I would lose some of the older folks, I think, too, because they're strictly PayPal. Until they start to force everybody to go over, I won't do it. They have too many glitches still with things, so I'm always cautious these days on turning over. I'm not going to do it yet. Nothing wrong if you do, though. David, same thing. I have a full OCD, too, with a fat dose of ADD. It does and it doesn't work for me. Sometimes when I'm trying to do something, I can't concentrate on other things that I would like to because my head won't clear out with what's stuck in it. If you know what an earwig is, sometimes I'll get an earwig and I just can't get a song out. And, you know, it drives sometimes a family crazy. If you ever watch Family Guy, there's the bird, the surfing bird by the Trashmen. He's on there. I've had that record many times, but he goes on, and that's just racked through someone's brain. That's the same thing I get where I just can't stop listening to a certain song sometimes. It drives me nuts sometimes. Let's see here. Hoptman, I just now opened a return for a shirt that was worn out, not matching description. The seller has no return policy, so we'll see if you're going to get to return it, I guarantee you. If it's not as described, as long as you open it up as not as described. If they don't accept it, then you up it to a case with eBay, and eBay will take care of it because they didn't do it as described. They will 100% have to take back a shirt not as described. I would go in there, too, and upload a couple of photos of the shirt right now before it goes any farther, if you have that option, and show the issues that don't match the actual description. That's what I would do. I always, if a seller sells me something that doesn't quite match the description, I always post a photo of it so I can say, here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. That way eBay can see it. Let's see here. Duncan's got an eBay seller complaining they had no sales. I checked their store. They had no returns policy, and the postage policy wasn't correct. I see that all the time too, Duncan. That's 100% true. I honestly see that mostly, and that's mostly what I see. And many times it'll be title, description, their photos are awful, they're distant shots, you can't see it, they're blurry, they're dark. There's so many issues. And again, everybody has a learning curve. I still have bad photos on my site. A subscriber pointed out a typo I even had in my eBay store. You know, and again, I don't do everything on my site. There's a ton of people here working nowadays, so I don't get to see everything all the time. One drawback of having employees and having a big store, you don't get to see everything. You know, you try to touch everything, and it's just not possible anymore these days. So, you know, things happen, mistakes happen. Sometimes there's bad photos, sometimes bad descriptions. You know, somebody points it out to me, I'm sure as heck going to fix it because I want it as correct as possible and everything. Let me pop down here, too, if my feed won't get lost. Another ADD, OCD comment. Yes, I'm terrible on it. Had it since I was a child. When I was a child, it wasn't something that was diagnosed. I got in some trouble in school, even grade school, for not being able to listen in class and stuff like that, too. So, you know, I've dealt with it the best I can for my years. Let's see here. Moronic Pest, yeah, a perfect example. My impressions are down 55.4% and sales for the month are up. Just as I said before, my impressions sometimes are just horrendously awful. That's why I stopped looking at them. And then I'm selling a ton of items. I'll be up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 over last year over last. And my impressions are terrible compared to last year. Just like when you're using eBay to compare your year over last. The eBay totals that say you're up or down from last year or even last month are based on the top 2 categories you sell in. And for us, those can change so drastically from month to month that it's just not worth me looking at it. I do projections and spreadsheets for that. I use Excel to see where I'm up or down in any of my stuff. At the end of the week, I pop them in there. Sometimes during fourth quarter, I'll check them out daily. If my sales go down, I know I need to do something extra. I'll do some sales, some promotions, or whatever it takes to get it in, or I'll list a bunch of little higher dollar items. So my sales are always increasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10%, whatever I can get them up. Anytime I have a drop in sales, my projections will point out where I need to look at it because I can do projections based on individual categories to see where I'm not making the money I was last month or last year. All that sales numbers are there for you to use and to help yourself out. So I always do projections every single week. And immediately, as soon as I see that my sales go down on any given day, I can address them that day instead of waiting till the end of the week or the end of the month. Many people won't even look at those numbers to the end of the month and then wonder why they're down, and then it's too late to do anything about it. Be proactive on everything that you do. Again, that's talking about centering in and knowing your market as well as you can. Know every single aspect of your market you can know. Again, you don't have to know that when you first start out, but your goal better darn well be to learn and master those areas, master what you do on your site. I haven't mastered everything, but there's some areas that I would say, mastered, and I'm up there, like Victorian trade cards. I'm up there with the gentleman who wrote the book on trade cards, and I'm not just saying that because he buys from me. I'm not going to give you his full name, but his name's David. He's got many books. You can look his books up on Amazon. He buys from me, you know, because I do, and he buys from other people. It's not just me, but you know, I sell to people like that because I've gained enough in a niche to be something in that niche to at least control pricing to some extent. Again, my competitor was the guy who wrote the book on it. That's who I copied off of. So, you know, the guy's a real good guy. He's bought from me for years. I have no complaints. If he makes an offer, I almost always just accept it. I think the guy is an honest guy. So I'm not going to get into who he is. I'm sure there's somebody out there who knows exactly who I'm talking about. But let's see here. Heart of Dixie Flipper. Don, need your advice. I picked up a complete set of the vintage metal lawn darts. I sold it on eBay for $200. It's against the law. It's a banned product. It's child safety rules. You cannot sell those online. I'm surprised you didn't get a ding on that. Your advice is only selling it locally on Craigslist is about your safest bet. I've had them before. They still get 40 or 50 bucks. Yours went for 200 on eBay because they were trying to get it before it was actually pulled. I mean, people sell Nazi stuff. People still sell vintage guns on eBay, technically illegally, but they get it mailed before it's canceled. I've gotten notices from, you know, stuff that I've bought that was pulled once or twice before, and the listing was canceled, but the item was already in the mail. You know, that's what people do. There's people who will intentionally sell items like that and hope to get it sold before eBay notices or it gets reported. Lawn darts are one of the ones on my list that's always been a no-no. They were banned in like maybe 80, maybe even before that, maybe. I don't know. Too many people were speared by those lawn darts. So Craigslist is about your only aspect on it. I would never spend more than, say, 10 or 15 bucks max on a lawn dart. I don't buy them at all, but if you were, I wouldn't spend more than that, because on Craigslist, usually I see them going for 40 or 50 bucks, in all honesty. Wade's Ventures, Wade, if you know who Wade, he's a really good guy. I've been on his channel. It's one of the few I've been on, as well as Chris from Thrift Shop Hustler. He had a set in one of his videos the other day, so you know, he knew you can't sell them, and that's just one thing. Those darts are on the list. Even if you didn't know it, you can still get yourself in trouble for selling stuff like that. Again, I'm not criticizing, because a lot of people don't know that, but just Craigslist them. That's all I would say. Don't put them anywhere on the net. You know, I don't know what the law or legality is on it, but it might even be a felony to sell something on that endangered list, or at least a huge fine. Let's see here. Let's see. eBay killed auctions by not going to soft closings, in my opinion. I don't think eBay's killed auctions. I don't think it has anything to do with eBay, in my opinion. I think the aspect of auctions was a fad. People thought it was cool because eBay was the only thing around. There was no other auction site other than some like Big Reel or something along that line, or Big Red Toy Box were the only ones that did stuff like that before eBay. I personally think that eBay's killed the market. eBay is or not eBay, I'm sorry. Amazon is what's killed the market for auctions. Everybody knows on Amazon you can just get it for what you want and be done with it. Once eBay started doing that, most people just don't mess with auctions anymore. You know, it's just a trend. It's not fashionable to sit there and wait for an auction to end, in my book. I don't like waiting for auctions, even if it's something like an art supplies I'm buying to do something with. I'd rather just have it. And if it means I got to spend a couple dollars more to get it instantly, I'd just rather have it. And with Amazon, I can have Prime. I ordered my wife some markers to do some projects we're working on here. I ordered them off Amazon. It's a big 50-lot set. They're going to be here in less than 2 days, probably, by the way the Prime goes on it. So I think it's more Prime and Amazon have ruined auctions than anything else, because if 56% of everybody looking to buy anything goes to Amazon first, auctions aren't even in their mind anymore. It's going straight to a site that they can instantly buy it right now. So not to dog on you or anything else, Nevermore, but I've looked into that a long time, and I personally think it's Amazon more than anything else. Any item that you look up, if there's a bunch of them up there, if you look up comps, the bin's going to sell for more than the auctions almost every time on most every item that I see, at least the ones that I sell. So that's my personal take on that. You know, somebody may say that's not right, but that's my personal take. I don't think eBay killed it at all. eBay is still keeping them on there because there are still a semi-viable market if it's the rare enough item and there's, you know, some competition for that specific item that would be on at any given time. The other aspect is the rare items are the ones that auction off better, and there's not as many people for a specific rare item as there would for some other items. So the auctions just aren't as popular. The person just wants it. So that's about my take on that. I don't think sniping killed auctions either, because, you know, it's going to sell, it's going to sell. Sometimes at the last minute, it'll be a $100 item and it'll go up $1,000 with the sniper. So I'm fine with that on that as well too. I don't mind it at all, personally. I'm fine with the way that the things are going with it, because I'd rather just do bins and not have to deal with waiting or anything else. Offer comes in, it's gone, it's sold. It's usually paid for that same day. I don't have to wait. It's just boom, out the door. There's times where I'll list a $1,000 or a $2,000 record. The last record I listed for $3,000. I had it out the door $2,700. The last two sold for less than $24. So I came out $300 ahead in less than 6 months from the last one selling on that record. So, you know, you got to weigh your options on this. The other ones were auctions. Mine was a bin, and I sold it for $300 more than somebody else. It's just one single item. So, you know, not trying to argue with anybody, Nevermore, or anything like that. So don't take any offense, please. Yeah, I have a sniping app myself. You know, because sometimes I'll buy items from one platform and sell them on Amazon, believe it or not. You can buy RA off of eBay, believe it or not, on some new items. People put them up, and you can buy them as soon as they go up, and off they go to as soon as they show up and sell them off somewhere else. Yeah, Moronic Pest is talking about increased sales. Much of my repeat customers are from, or much of my increase in some of the items that I sell are from repeat customers. Charles is one of my, him and his wife are in my my Patreon group, and we were discussing, and I showed them my repeat customer basis, and theirs is even better than mine. They're way higher than I am, which I was very impressed on their site. Repeat customers are huge, and I don't care if you're only selling clothing, you can still get repeat business from other items on Amazon or even on eBay, depending on, mostly on eBay. Amazon, I don't really worry about too many repeat customers, depending on what you're selling, but anyway. Let's see here. We'll cut it off in just a few minutes. I'm going to try and get to some more questions. Let me see if I can get a couple good questions here. Let me see here. I got a bunch on here. I'm sorry if I'm missing anybody. Hang on here. Let's see here. If you had hard to find items, auctions can be good. Yeah, sometimes if you do have hard to find items, they can be good. But if you know the market, I sell items that only show up like one of them a year, and I still am able to do bins. I just price them way over what they've went for before. Now I'm in Reddits, and I'm in some other boards and things like that I have inside information in the niches that I sell in. You know, there's places for niches besides eBay where you can discuss and ask people what the last price of something sold. I know there's WorthPoint. I don't really need that too much. I track most of my items. I've got spreadsheets of almost everything I've sold, so I can pretty much tell what they've sold for me personally as well, too. You know, there are some occasions where I will just do an auction, but 99% of every item I do far better, and I assure you far better as a bin. Yeah, like you're talking about that Harley Davidson oil can. I can sell a Harley oil. I can put $400 on a Harley Davidson oil can and still sell it for more than what somebody else might. You know, your feedback, your return policy, all that stuff comes into play in that. One thing I tell anybody, if you do sell oil cans like that and they have oil in them, you better make sure you know how to ship it to surface, and don't put it in a box that's not marked surface, and package it correctly, double bag, the whole works on those oil. I had a friend who had an item actually leak onto some other items, and he got in some trouble because it was paint, if I remember right. And he still is dealing with that. He had to go to court over it. So if you ship anything that's dangerous, don't skimp or scam on the shipping. Ship it correctly. I ship vintage spray cans in the mail via surface mail too. Let's see here. Shop Goodwill. Yeah, I won't mess with them. Around here, Shop Goodwill, the stuff goes for more than I would get for it on eBay in many cases. I know it goes to donations, but Shop Goodwill around here is crazy. Our local one has an auction that they do online as well, too. I know they've got the main site, too, but let's see here. Let's see here. Wait, piece of paper goes. Yeah, everything goes first class. Cato Creek Traders is correct on that. That's what I do for everything. Again, I charge for shipping for everybody. Yeah, you can buy some items off eBay and still make some profits off of them, but rarely. I mostly do RA items if I'm going to buy something off eBay, honestly. Yeah, and OMFUG is saying the same thing. Shop Goodwill gets some things sell for more than they would on eBay. I fully agree. Yeah, Aaron, I've tried that as well in the past, too. I just came to the conclusion, Aaron's talking about 3-day durations for auctions. I come to the conclusion after, I don't know how many umpteen sales, where I could have just put up a bin and would have done just fine on almost every one of the items that I go. And again, there are some, like rare tobacco labels or something along that line I might. Or there's a postcard or two here and there. Like a Tahoe postcard, I might auction off specific ones. If I can't find a comp on a Tahoe one, then I know it's probably a real rare one, I might do an auction on that, because some of the Tahoe postcards go for $2,000 or $3,000, and I would hate to put a $500 postcard up for $2,000 or $3,000. This is going to sit and languish there for a long time. Let's just get one more comment or something in here. Let's see here. Do well, but I would have to say, from my observation, auctions tend to end lower than bin listings. Yes, auctions do tend to sell for less than bin listings. I've done tons of comparisons. Just do yourself a favor and do some comparisons. You can look online and see, pick some item you got, decide on what you want to do with it, look at the comps for it and compare the prices for the bins versus the prices for the auctions, and almost always the bins go for more. It may not be a huge difference, but it's enough to make it worth the while. Again, Nevermore is right. There are some items, rare, super, super rare items that you will need to do it. But you're going to have to drum up some interest in it ahead of time. You're going to have some darn good keywords and SEOs and the whole works, just as Junk Data Girl was talking about too. So. Let's see here. It's funny how trolls know nothing about the business. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. Even people who've been selling for a year or two have no business experience, and they're wondering why they're faltering. So, summer's gonna make it or break it. I just put a video up just before this live show about talking about summer. Summer's fast approaching. You know, for those of you who haven't been through a summer, you better darn well be ready, and you better know what you're gonna do about it, especially if this is your only form of income. You know, don't put all your eggs in one basket is what I would tell you. You need to broaden your reach. Everybody who's not, you know, still making, you know, good money now to live on, you know, you better be doing something right this minute. You know, I don't worry right now because we run through summer with real good sales. You know, I have an increase throughout summer. Last summer, we were up from the summer before. We were up from the summer before that, and on and on and on and on. So as long as I'm seeing at least a 3% increase, I'm never going to worry about it. Obviously, it was a little more than that this past time. Let's see here. Let me just get one more in because now we're approaching the 9 o'clock hour. So let me see here. Yeah, there are some things that do go cheap on eBay. That is true. It just depends. And the reason it goes cheap is because people didn't do their homework and didn't research the value on some items. Sometimes I'll just blow stuff out and I don't really care, you know, as long as I'm making my profit margin. So, you know, there's people like that do it too. So let me just get one more. Yeah, Nevermore is telling you, don't share stuff you have on Amazon. People will try to get it and copy and God knows what else. They'll try and get you shut down so they can sell the same item sometimes too. Yeah, some of the items can auction. Again, the misconception is that you might not get as much for it. Put them up really high as a bin. I put stuff up 3 times, many times, what I expect to get out of it. And sometimes they sell for that price. You know, especially if I've got comps on it. So don't always think auction isn't always the aspect of it. If I know a tobacco label for sure has many past sales, not just on eBay, because I compare certain things on other sites, it always sells for $1,000. I may put that up as a bin for $1,500, and I may get it because other people aren't going to look to see what it sold for last time. So that's just a thought on that. So that's why I say I would rather put something up horrendously high than put it in an auction truthfully. Because at the end of the day, it's going to sell for whatever the highest price is. I don't do reserves. I'm not a big reserve fan. So if I can put it up for 3 times what it is, it's an insane price. I still may even sell it at that. So that's just my take on it. So anyway, I'm going to have to cut it short here. We're at the 9 o'clock hour. I have the wife coming home in just a few minutes. She just texted right now. So I'm going to cut it off here. I do appreciate everybody being on. Marie, again, I appreciate your super chat as well. If you have any questions or comments, again, you're welcome to leave them below, and I will take care of it from there. So again, glad to have everybody on. Have a good night. I've got another video coming up tomorrow. It's already shot. It's one I've been waiting to get up for a little while here, but it should be an interesting one. It should be very helpful. I've got a bolo list coming out. Real good one on stuff that you will find for my Patreon folks. It's going to be up by the weekend. It's already shot. I just need to edit it. So that is what's coming up the line right now. So have a good evening. Have some good sales, and glad to have everybody here tonight.